Welcome to the webinar, Magical for Support Teams. I'm going to share with you a few slides on how DHL's support team saves 4 hours a day using Magical, and then I'll go into a live demo on how you can get started yourself. Feel free to leave questions in the chat, and I will monitor those throughout. All right, so as support professionals, you want to make customers happy, you want to close tickets faster, and you want to go home earlier and enjoy your life. But what gets in your way? Typically, it's manual tasks. So workers spend 30% of their time on manual repetitive tasks. And that's 624 hours of productivity lost per worker per year. So we spoke to Jan, a customer claims team lead at DHL, which is a global leader in logistics in the logistics industry, about their experience. Jan explained that when you work for one of the largest shipping and transportation companies in the world, you're bound to have high volume of customer service conversations. At DHL, each employee typically takes somewhere between 50 to 100 conversations a day. And they also answer questions across many apps. So not only in live chats, but also in email and social media channels. They also have a really large team full of new employees. So there's lots of room for error and mistakes. So really, Jan knew there was a better way. He knew the solution that he found needed to be really dead simple. And the goal was to really just reduce the time spent answering customer questions and making his team a lot happier at work. So Jan found Magical, and the team quickly realized that they could save this repetitive text that they send to customers as shortcuts in Magical. And they could also customize these messages with information from the recipient. So information like first name, address, or location. And these would automatically fill using variables in Magical. Jan also realized that Magical could easily transfer data between two of DHL's internal customer service tools. So he had one tool that would allow him to get an estimate for the time it would take to ship a product. And then he needed to take all that information from his customer service tool, like country, city name, all of that kind of stuff, and transfer that into the other tool. So he could actually set this up in a workflow using Magical and automatically do that in 2 seconds. He could also share this transfer with his team. He could set up these templated messages and also this automated workflow, share that with his team, and they could instantly get access to this just by selecting Magical. So Jan says he now has saved 195 hours using Magical, and that's about 4 hours every day. He's also able to save a lot of time for his team as well. So far, DHL has 100 support professionals using Magical and collaborating on those templates and workflows. They're saving 4 hours a day and solving around 80 problems for customers every day. So I'll stop there. I'll stop sharing my slides, go into a live demo, and show you how you can set this up for yourself. So if you haven't already, make sure you go over to getmagical.com and download the Chrome extension. The main thing you'll want to do when you get started is open up this puzzle icon and make sure you pin the Magical app. This will just mean that you can access Magical when you're on different pages. The first thing I'll show you is that messaging use case. So how do you save that repetitive text that you write over and over again as a shortcut in Magical? So you'll go to your private workspace, and then you'll go to your shortcuts tab. And you can see here, I already have this troubleshooting message here. I'll create a new one just to give you an idea of how this works. You'll first set up a trigger. So this is how you'll access this shortcut in the future. So let's do another one, maybe -help. And you can start to create your shortcut using placeholder text that you want Magical to automatically fill. So hi, first name, sorry to hear you're having trouble. I've created, you could put like ticket number for you. And I'm sure you guys would come up with something better than that, but let's just save that. And now let's say you're working in Zendesk and you're responding to this customer. So you could be typing a response to them, and you can either trigger that by typing help, or you can also use this / command, and this will pull up all of your shortcuts in context. You can also search this to filter these messages. So let's start by using that first one. So it's going to pull up my templated message here. And then it's going to start to suggest, I have a bunch of tabs open that actually have some of these variables. You can see here, here's the template. You can fill this out manually, but Magical is going to start to recommend information from this tab. So it's seeing that Rebecca is on this ticket, and it's also ticket number 1. So I'm going to fill that out, and then it fills this shortcut out for me without me having to copy and paste that information for you. But you could do this across many different apps. Let's say like DHL, they were, trying to reply to people's responses on Twitter. So let's go to, somewhere we could reply. So you can hit the / and you'll be able to pull up that same information and pull this information from Twitter if you want. This would also work on something like intercom. So if you're in chat, you can also have these same messages. So that's a big benefit that support professionals love, is that they're answering questions in email, on chat, in social, in Zendesk. And so Magical can really work where you work. The big thing you want to make sure is if you're using this on an internal tool, such as, intercom, is make sure you have your variables set up correctly. So open the Magical icon, click on variables, and you'll see some of the variables that I've already labeled here. So I've labeled this as kind of full name. This would typically be a name, maybe, their email, or, the lead's name, their user ID. You can label all of that and use that in your message as you work. You'll want to do that on each app that you work, and then that will be prolific across every different conversation or profile that you're doing in that tool. The other use case that we saw DHL using is they wanted to actually start to transfer some information from one database to another. So they had Zendesk, which is here, and they wanted to move some of that information into a different form. I don't have access to this form, so I'm just going to use a simple practice form builder here. You can see here, if you type // I can start to pull information from a different tab into this form. So notice how it filled out full name, first name, last name, account number or account name. So basically Magical is recognizing, okay, you have this on a different tab. We want to help you fill this out for you on this tab. So that was like a way for DHL to just quickly get through some of that repetitive work that the team was doing. Now, after you've done some of these transfers, if you are working on a team, so I've created this help shortcut. Let's say this is something that everybody on my team is having to send to customers. I've created a support team here, but it doesn't have any shortcuts. So I'm going to go to my private workspace where I have all my personal shortcuts here, and I'm going to click share, and I can share this shortcut with my support team. And now everyone who has access to this team can start to use this shortcut automatically. They don't need to do any setup. All you have to do is invite coworkers to this team. They'll join the team, and then they can see these shortcuts as well. They can either type that -help to access this, or they can do a similar thing where they type // and they'll be able to see their personal shortcuts and also team shortcuts in this drop down. So see, I can see my support. I'm also part of the sales team, and use this similar to how I showed before. And then that transfer will be saved to anyone in this team workspace, and they'll be able to follow that same pattern. They won't have to go and do any setup. They can just actually start to transfer information into that form, just as the person who set it up would. Okay, well, I think that was mostly it. So I showed you sort of saving messaging snippets, sharing those to each team so that they can get access, also moving data across, different tabs. In support, we have seen, if people are using legacy systems that don't connect, they're really using Magical to help move information really quickly from one system to another instead of having to do that copy and paste. and yeah, seeing a lot of benefit. I think that personalization of each shortcut using variables, I encourage you to go and try that out yourself. Just always remember you can, open up the panel and click on variables to see what is labeled in your system. So I've already set up some of this. So like the ticket number, I've tagged, Rebecca as a first name and her email, but maybe there's other things that appear on your, internal instance, your Zendesk or wherever you're doing customer support. Just make sure those are labeled, and then you can start to use that in your message. And when you create your message, just make sure those match. So anything labeled on the page, like first name, you want to have that labeled as well in your shortcut. Well, if there's no questions, we can end there. And yeah, thanks all for joining. And hopefully, if you do run into any issues, I'm happy to troubleshoot. Just shoot me an email and hopefully get that sorted for you.